Why go to a school to have to pay something when you can come to a trade and go to an apprenticeship program and be paid while you're working and come out debt-free?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Folks, we are joined today by Alex Cook, the business agent for the International Union of Elevator Constructors, Local 32 in Atlanta, Georgia. Alex, welcome to the Valley Labor Report. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit just generally about the elevator constructors, but first, can you talk to us about how you came into working for the union? You know, I mean, it's quite something to be dedicating your professional life to working within the labor movement. Not very many people do that. So how did that happen?
My journey started in 1989 when I got in the elevator industry. I am a second-generation elevator constructor. My father and two of his brothers were in the industry, which they did not want me in. They wanted me to do better. And I explained to my uncle that the best thing a man could do is keep a roof over his family's head, food in their stomach, and clothes on their backs. And all three of those men were heroes in my eyes, and I wanted to do the same thing. He was kind of touched, and he looked at my dad and he says, "Why is your son making too much sense?" And my dad said, "That's what he does." And so I got in this business in June of '89, started attending meetings. I was sworn in a year later in December, and I just worked through my ranks slowly. I started out as warden at the meeting. Then I went from warden to treasurer, served a couple of terms as that. From there, I went to vice president. I served 2 terms as that and 2 terms as president. After that, I stepped down. I became a trustee for our local. And this past December, my running mate, Stuart Spencer, is the business manager for Local 32. And I was his appointee to be the business agent for the local.
Gotcha. And so the elevator constructors, I think it's kind of right there in the title, but what, mechanically, what do your members do to build the elevators, and is there anything else that your members do maybe besides the obvious, we construct elevators?
We do everything that probably 4 other crafts do. It was a long, hard-fought battle over 100 years ago to become elevator constructors. We set all our steel in the hoistway, except for the red steel. If it's building steel, the ironworkers keep that, but once they give us the red steel, we fix our brackets and our guide rails to those brackets. We rig all our own equipment. Riggers do not touch our stuff, not even coming off of the truck. We unload everything when it gets to the job site. If there's work to cut out holes for our boxes in concrete, we do that work. We wire our own stuff. The electricians give us power to our controller, and then we wire everything else, whether it's 120 low voltage stuff, we take care of that. They give us the high voltage to our starter panels or our controllers, and we go from there.
The elevator constructors have a very high market share, don't they? Aren't like most elevators built in the U.S. built union?
Most elevators that are built and serviced fall under the union umbrella. We have nationwide, we are somewhere in the, I would say, 70-75% market share. In my territory of Atlanta, Local 32, we have upper 80s, if not right at 90% of the market share.
Wow. That's really impressive. There are very, very few unions today that can still say we've got, even 70% market share, much less 80 or 90. How does the IUEC make that happen?
Well, it's in cooperation with our signature companies. Everybody's heard of Otis Elevator, Schindler Elevator, Kone, or ThyssenKrupp, TKE now. And there's also a few some other international companies. They're bigger on the West Coast, Fujitec and Mitsubishi. They all agreed to use union workers in our collective bargaining agreement. We have in some other territories what we call independents or mom and pop shops. They are really growing and they're really thriving, and they sign CBAs and they work with us to keep union labor going. Our education is a 4-year apprenticeship, and it is really second to none. Nobody else can really teach what we teach.
How many members would you say there are in the IUEC, both nationally across or internationally across the U.S. and Canada, and then specifically in the South?
Well, the South is going to be harder to guess, but internationally, we have between the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico, there are between 30 to almost 33,000 members.
Can you talk to us about the apprenticeship program for the elevator constructors, and if there is one, and the compensation package that a journeyman might expect to get for the IUEC?
We do have an apprenticeship program. It is a 4.5-year program. Your first 6 months is your basically probationary classes. Our probationary period does last 12 calendar months, so 365 days. From the day you start work is your probationary period. Once a probationary has worked 6 100-hour months, they are now eligible for benefits. Our benefits consist of medical, dental, paid holidays, a pension plan, annuity, and the option to join a 401k. Also, our education is part of our package just for starters. The program consists of 4 years, and you come to class for 4 hours, 1 night a week. When you complete that, we do offer some review courses, because when you take your mechanics exam, journeyman's exam, it will consist of all 4 years of your education. There's probably just under 200 questions, and they are taking a percentage from each year of your school. So you've got to be well-rounded. Some guys, they want to turn around and just study answers from previous tests, and you're not going to pass the test. You have to study the theory and the formulas of being an elevator constructor.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
And so then once you become a journeyman or a credentialed mechanic, what does the compensation package look like? Hourly wage, stuff like that?
Bring home wage right now for a local 32 member is $52.08 an hour for a mechanic. That is bring home. By the time you add on the fringe of our package, you're looking at another $40 an hour that is paid into. So the companies actually pay almost $90 an hour. Of that, 40 of it goes to the different portions of our package, and you bring home $56.08 as a mechanic. Now, if you are a foreman on a job, a mechanic in charge, you will get 12% above that. And then our apprenticeship structure is based as 80% apprentice, which is a 4th year. They get 80% of the mechanic scale. 3rd year apprentice is 70%, 65, 55, and 50. So when a person comes in as Johnny off the street, they will make 50% of mechanic scale for 6 months. After that, they will get 5% bump in pay. Now, annually, every January, they will get a pay raise, certain percentage that's coming from our collective bargaining agreement. In September, when they complete their 2 semesters of school, then they move up to the next level of pay as an apprentice up until they pass the mechanics exam.
That sounds pretty good. If somebody were to want to join the IUEC, the International Union of Elevator Constructors, where do they need to go? Where would I go if I want to find out where my nearest apprenticeship program is?
Go to our education department, which is NEEP. That stands for National Elevator Industry Education Program.org. And you can click on, and it will list all 50 states, the territories in Canada, as to where they are going to hold apprenticeship drives. Atlanta, we have just finished our drive and have a list for our market and for our other market in Savannah. And what will happen is, if a person listening to this radio station, if they would log on, they can deposit their email address at any local they want. When that local has a drive, 2 to 3 weeks before that drive, they will be sent an email reminder that Local 24 Birmingham is going to have a drive starting this date. Log on and register starting at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, July the 30th. And you go July the 30th and you register at 9 o'clock in the morning. We take GED, high school diploma, college degree. Then there's other things that they have to fill out on that form. Once that's submitted, then they will be given a time and a date to show up for an aptitude test. Upon passing the aptitude test, they will be given a time and a date for an interview. And the interview will consist of an IUEC mechanic and a company representative. Our education program is, since the companies also pay into it through their contributions, internationally we have 4 IUEC trustees and 4 NEBA or company representatives on our education. So they want to be part of our interviews. When that is done, we take the scores from the aptitude test. We take the scores from your interview. It is a graded interview. Everybody's asked the exact same questions. We then combine those scores. The person who reaches a 70 will be the last person on the list. The person that gets the highest grades, combined scores, will be the highest person, and then wherever they end up, the other scores is where they lined up in the middle. Most locals run a list for 2 years or until the list runs out. Person can put their names on as many lists as possible. So if somebody wants to do a drive in Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, wherever, they can go to as many locals that are having drives as they want to. However, 2 things. When they do their aptitude test, that's their score. They cannot take another aptitude test in another local because that's their score. Right. The only time you get to take another aptitude test is if you fail the aptitude test, say in Atlanta, but then you go to Birmingham, you can take another aptitude test. But once you pass it, that's your grade. You can interview as many times. The first local that puts you to work, you have to stay there a minimum of 24 months before you can even try to go somewhere closer back to home.
Alex Cook, business agent for the International Union of Elevator Constructors, Local 32 out of Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you think is important for folks to know about your union before we let you go?
Yes, there's a few other things. Still talking about drives. We work heavily with Helmets to Hard Hats, which is a veterans organization. Any of our veterans, first, I want to thank you for your service. If you're looking for a career in the elevator industry or any of the trades, I would recommend that you go to h2h.org, create your own profile. You can then go to different locals. Different locals have different specifications. Like Local 32, a person must have a end of service date of 5 years or less. And then we will bring them straight into our list after they've done an interview. They don't have to take the aptitude test or anything. However, if they're over 5 years, then they have to come through a normal drive. Other locals don't mind, but I believe H2H says they have to be 60 months or less removed from service. So I'd like to make sure our veterans do that. And in the IUEC, we do have women apprentices. We have women journeymen. Mechanics. We don't call them journeymen, we call them mechanics. So for the sisters out there, the young ladies that would like to think about coming in, please give us an opportunity. Why go to a school to have to pay something when you can come to a trade and go to an apprenticeship program and be paid while you're working and come out debt-free and have a much better career?
Absolutely. And that Helmets to Hard Hats stuff is really, really cool. Not every union apprenticeship program does this, but one of the programs that Helmets to Hard Hats helps apprenticeship programs try to do is, like, when you come out of the military, a lot of times you're having to start a career, and sometimes you're going to end up taking a pay cut, right? If you become like an entry-level person in whatever career, and say if you were in the military for 4 or 8 or 10 years, you know, there's going to be a delta there. And so there's a program with the GI Bill that allows people from the military to be paid from the GI Bill the delta between their ending salary in the military and their beginning salary in a union apprenticeship program or in, you know, any registered apprenticeship program. And many unions take advantage of that. Do the elevator constructors?
Yes. Our veterans that participate in our apprenticeship program, they have the option to use their GI Bill funds to be compensated for coming to class. We have had a few that say that they're trying to save the GI Bill for when their child goes to school because they can pass it on as an inheritance, which is great that now they have the opportunity. We've had quite a few veterans from years back say, hey, I never got to use my GI Bill. Can I use it now? And they're like, nope, time's up. You've been a mechanic for 25 years. That doesn't count. But yeah, so it is a good thing that veterans can be treated with the respect that they deserve in that regards.
All right. Thank you, Brother Cook. Really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
All right.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.